Okay, I'm live apparently. Sorry, that it looked weird. Okay, I think I'm going to adjust my camera settings again. What's weird is I don't get a true thing while I'm adjusting it because the control panel for it is white, which oh wait, that's what. It doesn't save my settings. There we go. That's a more friendly color, isn't it? That's a more friendly color now. Hello, Fox and John and Catherine. Yes. Fox, you hit on it when I say Trump loves the worst thing about Australia. It's our concentration camps. Hello, Mitchell. I've been fine, thanks, Catherine. How have you been? Getting that hang of this new YouTube webcam as opposed to the Google Hangouts. It seems to be working though, so that's good. What's here? Participants. What's that do? No, okay. That's okay. Okay, because I smile. The title, Donald Trump on Twitter today said how awesome Australia's extremely fucked and hateful policy to asylum seekers is, and how America should be like that. Because certainly for the the last fucking decade, the Conservatives in particular, but Labor have been no better, have published an extremely hateful series of things about our border control. Hey, Charlie. And Catherine, your drains are blocked. You have a proper shower at the poo after your pool. See, that's got in my mind. As soon as I saw drains blocked and my eyes raced ahead to where it said pool and they saw that as poo. So I thought you were going to tell us that you had to have the poo somewhere else. But that's just the way my mind works. Oh, we're sharing blockages. Musical David's nose is blocked. That's good. I've had some problem with it. That's a fun topic for conversation, isn't it? How blocked is my nose? How grey is my hair? I had a haircut and I haven't coloured it. I probably will. I'm just bored. Oh, okay. Writing's blocked. Oh, that's tough when you're suffering from writer's block. If you're trying to write, that is very tough. Oh God, incidentally, for those who were here on Tuesday night, and even for those who weren't, I could fill you in cocktail hour, well, some could argue it was in bad taste because I was referring to a study come out that showed that alcohol is more damaging than any drugs, any prescription drugs, any illicit drugs, and the result of this from me was, hey, why don't I mix a cocktail of all my strongest alcohols, which was 55% chartreuse and 75% absinthe and a herbal infusion of unknown strength, because it was originally made from a 95% alcohol Polish rectified spirit, spiritus, but I diluted it heaps of times with 40% vodka. So it's probably 60, 70%, maybe more. It's impossible to know for sure. And I made a cocktail with them, which tasted surprisingly good. Like, I was very worried that I would be making myself a drink that tasted horrible. And it tasted good. But holy fuck, I got shit-faced. I was quite drunk. Like, I wasn't sick and didn't have a hangover, but that was basically probably at least 6 standard drinks in an hour, which is a lot. Hey, Noog and Justin, nice to see you. It was quite the concoction I made for myself. Kotot, hello. Yeah, so but we also were talking about various things, and I'm going to make my version of the Tiki Classic, the zombie, later, the angry zombie. Kito, what am I angry about? Well, the central focus is Australia's policy to asylum seekers, namely putting them in torture camps, is so fondly looked upon by Donald Trump. He wants to emulate it. He thinks all the gross shit the Conservatives have done, locking people up offshore, is awesome. And that's pretty sickening. Hey, Brody. Hello in Brisbane. Justin, have I listened to any of the Democratic debate? No. At the moment, with all those different people saying they're running for president, it's just a fucking clown show. I'm honestly not going to pay much attention to the Democratic runners until the field narrows down a little. Oh, was that what he typed boring about, Natalie? I did see that Trump, from my point of view, it was contextless. Trump just tweeted all caps boring. Okay, he was talking about the Dems. Honestly, they deserve it. Even if they weren't boring, they deserve it for just having so many of them. Yeah, very presidential of him. He's oh my God, he has just debased the concept of public office so much. It's bizarre. Catherine, does the US has offshore processing? They sure do. Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. And the Cubans are touchy enough about their base there. If they started shipping desperate people there en masse, they might be even more touchy about it. Yes, Dr. Obama, that is exactly about Trump cheering on the "you will not be settled in Australia," and basically the fucking evil that is Australian foreign policy to asylum seekers. Oh, Katoti, Labor's weak as fucking piss. Like, their behaviour since the election has been contemptible. I mean, I always complained about Shorten in opposition, that he wouldn't commit to anything. His entire strategy for election was, I'm not that guy. And it looked like it was going to work, but it didn't. And now, since they've lost the election, basically every public pronouncement from them has been weak as piss. It's just like, I think we should be nicer to rich people. I think, yeah, we should be worse with watermelon. They're fucked. Brody, yes, AZ does have Asperger's. Was diagnosed for him relatively late in life. Oh yes, okay. I get a couple of people saying, well, at least they're opposing the tax cuts. Yes, at least. Every other pronouncement they've made has been absolutely weak as piss, and somewhere on a spectrum between embarrassing and contemptible. They say, oh, maybe if we just be Liberal Party light, people will love us. Like, oh, fuck off. Stand for something, you weak as piss losers. Christ, I'm glad I'm not one of those people who's married to the Labor Party. Like, obviously, I'd prefer them as government to the Conservatives, but you know, I'd rather slam my finger in a car door than slam my dick in a car door too. Ideally, I wouldn't do either. But yeah, they need to fucking stand for something. This Be Liberal Party light is weak as piss. Natalie, go to the Greens. Have fun. I don't have a lot of time for the Greens because they're never forming government. So I don't spend a lot of time on the Greens because they're never going to form government. Koto, do you think Bill Shorten had some sensible progressive policies? Look, from my perspective, Bill Shorten never committed to anything. Bill Shorten never did anything inspiring. Bill Shorten thought he was going to bloody Stephen Bradbury it into the lodge. He'd get in there because the Liberals all fell over themselves, and that fucking pathetic strategy didn't work. I never once felt inspired by Shorten. Every now and then, he'd make like once a year or so, he'd make, a speech that sounded worth something. But I never once felt inspired by Shorten. And I just think it's pathetic. But yeah, as much as I was disappointed in his lack of any real vision in the lead up to the election, the way Labor's been behaving since the election, weak as fucking piss. Like I said, I clearly prefer them in government to the Tories. On every ground, on freaking industrial relations, the environment, minority rights, basic human decency, Labor's head and shoulders above the fucking Tories. It's really sad how spineless they are with asylum seeker policy. That's John fucking Howard's fault. John Howard dragged Australia into the gutter in the 90s and made racism a central part of mainstream Australian politics. John Howard is a contemptible little fucking goblin. And all those fucking lies about being a good economic manager. He and his fucking cronies squandered billions upon billions of dollars that should have been, to the greater good, giving away mineral rights to fucking billionaires. Ran the economy into the ground. And no, Custodian never voted for John Howard. John Howard is fucking scum. I mean, it's weird if I could, like, there was the time that Latham was Labor leader. If I had a crystal ball then and saw how bad Latham was going to be in the future, I would have had very big concerns. But at the time, I had no idea. So I was quite aggressively supporting Latham over Howard, although they lost. Does this have a name? This is Chuck, Chuppa Chuck. He is actually the official mascot of Chuppa Chup lollipops. I got him years ago in a promo from the Chuppa Chups people. Oh, nice, Dr. Obama, you did an assignment on why Howard's overrated and got an A-. Nice. I assume you use facts, because when you use facts on John Howard, he's shit. Justin, I don't know much about ACT politics. You're saying the ACT opposition leader is a stooge to special interests. I believe you, even though I know nothing about him. Dr. Obama, who's the best PM after the Keating era that Australia never got? Well, who ran? Beasley? Beasley would have been okay. He's just, seemed like boring centrist. Latham, in retrospect, was scary, and who the fuck knows what would have happened with him as PM. I think, Rudd did a lot of good things as PM, and he just fucked it up by being impossible to work with. And I've raised this many times in the past, but what was telling to me is not long after he was elected, the first major profile done on him in the print media, his close staff, like people who supported him, who were his biggest fans, they said he doesn't sleep enough and it makes him cranky. And then what happened repeatedly over the years as PM, his temper got the better of him. He shouted at people and abused people. His own party considered him impossible to work with. And me personally, I wrote him off. Okay, so he made a good, very good speech, the apology to the stolen generation, long overdue, and that was a very statesman-like thing to do. He made that speech about climate change, which was pretty good when he said it was the greatest moral challenge to our generation. We need to take action. But this is where I switched off on him, because then they got some market research that said, ooh, you'll lose votes by pushing climate change agenda. And he dropped it completely. By his own words, by his own standards, he failed miserably at the greatest moral challenge of this generation. That was one of the most shitty politician things I've seen. And then he became impossible to work with in his own party. He was autocratic, he was abusive, and they turned on him. Now, I think Gillard proved herself to be a very good prime minister. She accomplished a hell of a lot leading a minority government. She, in legislative terms, she achieved far more leading a minority government than Tony Abbott did with a significant majority. Just the unrelenting hatred, bullshit, and lies from the Murdoch media, and not just the Murdoch media. Honestly, Fairfax joined in on it too. You know, it's completely undermined her. And the way those fucking pissy, oh God, I lost my train of thought there for a second. No, I lost it. Dr. Obama, you are being far too generous to Rudd. He didn't drop climate action after the ETS got blocked by the Greens. He dropped it when he got bad fucking market research. And there's no, that's, okay, I'm going to be a little bit harsh here. Excusing Rudd backing down at all for any excuse whatsoever. He was fucking pathetic. He himself, he used the phrase, the greatest moral challenge to this generation, and then he fucking failed it completely. By his own standards, he failed. The thing about the Greens is bullshit, and even if it was completely true, he's still a complete fucking failure. He should have stuck with it. He backed down because he got bad fucking market research. It's pathetic. And it's just, he had so much potential, and yeah, he just was not a team player. By, I think, Charlie blaming Rudd for the NBN being shit. No, that's not Rudd's fault. To an extent, it's Stephen Conroy's fault. If Stephen Conroy had a plan to roll out the NBN that had progressed far enough before the federal election, also, you said her. For some reason I saw him. Okay, no, the NBN is not Gillard's fault either. To an extent, it's Stephen Conroy's fault, because he was so adversarial with his plan. Telstra did a big go slow on their side, and so by the time Labor lost power, it hadn't advanced very far, and the Libs were still able to destroy the NBN. And the Libs destroyed the NBN for two reasons. One, they're shallow political hacks, and they couldn't admit that Labor had a good policy. Because it was a Labor policy, they had to say it was bad. And second, multiple sources have said Murdoch made his views on the NBN very clear. It would have undermined his business model for Foxtel, and he had instructed the Liberal Party to kill it. So if Conroy had had a better plan, had executed his plan better, had been less adversarial to Telstra, basically, if Labor's plan had been far enough advanced by the time the Libs won power that the Libs couldn't kill it, then we'd be fine. But it had barely progressed at all. So the Libs lost almost nothing by killing it. I mean, they've thrown a few $1 billion down the toilet with an absolutely shithouse system, just playing their stupid fucking politics. But if Conroy's plan had been sufficiently advanced, as the rollout had been sufficiently advanced, the Libs couldn't have killed it without basically throwing away $10 to $20 billion. Dr. Obama, I'm pretty sure Abbott did not campaign on destroying the NBN. Turnbull and Abbott lied quite a bit, saying they had a better plan, which we now know, simply from evidence, simply from what we lived through. It's Minzy coming in. You're going to come up on your seat, Minzy? Usurp Chuck and come up on your seat. You want to see the people, don't you? So, the Libs, like I said, in my opinion, the Libs killed the NBN for two reasons. One, because they're just shallow political hacks who couldn't admit Labor had a good policy, and it was a fucking good policy. And second, Murdoch wanted them to kill it, so they killed it. Where are you going? She's on the floor behind me now. She'll come up here eventually and say hello to everyone. But yeah, and our internet is shit, and by world standards, we slide further back every year. It's a fucking embarrassment. It is a fucking embarrassment how bad our internet is. The Libs' actions are somewhere between gross incompetence and outright sabotage. And Ms. Gavada, you're right. Among the worst things about the Lib policy on the NBN is it didn't save any money, like $5 billion over budget, massive cost overruns, and it doesn't fucking work. Here's Mimsy. Come all the way up. Come all the way up and I'll give you a scratch. Up here. Up on the perch. What are you doing? You want a scratch? She's being silly. She's over there. So yeah, that's the way the Tories destroyed the NBN hurt Australia quite a bit, both economically and socially. But as you say, Justin, the Libs don't understand the importance of infrastructure spending. They don't spend it properly on roads either, anything else. Certainly not public transport infrastructure, not on highways. They've got this obsession with building massive expressways or doing deals with fucking private contractors in huge fucking scammy deals to do tollways in urban areas. Dr. Obama, look, it was you, as you say, you were young when it happened, and here's a simple fact. I did not watch that Killing Season documentary, but here's a simple fact. You cannot believe a single word Kevin Rudd says when talking about Kevin Rudd's prime ministership. He's a raging fucking narcissist, completely blind to all his own failings. and he would be the least trustworthy source of evaluating his actions when he was Prime Minister. And I say that with a somewhat heavy heart because I held out very high hopes for him as a Prime Minister. And you know how sometimes it works, like if you've got a really low opinion of someone, you know, like Abbott had a very low opinion of him and he met it exactly. So I wasn't disappointed in Abbott. I got exactly, sorry, I thought I had a singlet on under here and I don't. I got all naked under my, I'm wearing pants, okay? No one get too excited. So, you know, Abbott wasn't a disappointment. He was exactly what I expected. Rudd was a massive disappointment because I had high hopes for him. Yeah, and I not even Turnbull was a disappointment. I thought it was kind of funny that all the things people held out hopes for him on, he completely failed on, and he was pathetic and useless. But I didn't have high hopes for him, so I wasn't disappointed. I found his failure really funny. Musically, Vedigia Scummo wants to throw federal funds on tollway. It's absolutely absurd. It's got no traction whatsoever in Victoria. Again, the Tories and the Murdoch media keeps pushing this, oh, you've got to build this expressway. It's like the expressway that it was a central part of Daniel Andrews' election promise to scrap that tollway, and it was a vote winner. Obviously, it was popular with the people of Victoria dumping that stupid fucking tollway, and he followed it up with his re-election strategy. And it's like when it's absolutely core to Daniel Andrews' election promises and the opposite side of politics says, oh, you've got to do the exact thing you said you won't do, and the not doing got you elected because we say so. It's like, get fucked. It's just, I'd say it's embarrassing how stupid they do, but it's just fucking evil. Like the way they just randomly just lie and talk shit. Like, you know, like this hideous homophobic shithead Israel Folau, and they're going about, oh, freedom of speech, oh, religious freedom. And it's going like, yeah, you're going to extend the same religious freedom to Muslims, aren't you? I mean, the same people who are saying, oh, Israel Folau's been treated so badly, you know, for his breach of contract. That's a legal thing. It's nothing to do with free speech or Christianity. He breached their social media policy, and he knew he was breaching it because he'd done it before and got a warning. The same people who were saying, oh, it's terrible, what happened to Israel Folau, the same people hounded Yasmin, I will get a name wrong if I try and say it. Her name is Yasmin, and a couple of years, she had a job at the ABC, and a couple of years ago, she tweeted on Anzac Day, lest we forget, and including the people in Manus and the other asylum seekers who were fleeing from war. And because if you are going to do a proper memorial to war, you have to remember the civilians and the people who were displaced and all the people who suffer because of war. And people said, that's a really shitty thing to do. It's disrespectful. And without any public uproar, just people responding on her Facebook, she went, it was never my intention to upset people. I'm going to delete it because it was never intended to upset people. It was just meant to highlight the plight of these people who were victims of war. And she was literally hounded out of the country. They didn't just say she had to lose her job, even though she didn't breach any of her terms of employment, didn't breach her contract at all. forcing the ABC to drop her show wasn't enough. They literally hounded her out of the country for saying something as simple as "lest we forget" Manus, and why am I forgetting the other fucking concentration camp's name? Manus Island, and someone help me out here. Maybe I'm just blanking out the fact we have these torture camps, people who are fleeing war zones created by our foreign policy. Thank you, Charlie Nauru. It was literally what she did. All she did was a Facebook status that said, "Lest we forget Manus and Nauru." And when people said, "That's disrespectful, this isn't the appropriate time to do it," she said, "Oh, it was never my intention to, this was not meant to upset people, I'll delete it." And that wasn't enough. They made the ABC drop a show, and they literally hounded her out of the country. The fucking Murdoch rags, front page after front page, all these lying sacks of shit who are going, "Free speech, free speech, free speech," basically wanted, like an execution in the public square. And this is just one of the many reasons I can't countenance them. Like, they literally say Folau spreading hatred against gay people is just free speech, when someone making an incredibly mild comment is hounded out of the country. They're just such fucking liars. Like, they just suck so much. It's a little bit hard to put into words just how fucking horrible they are. But they are. Oh, I'm just going to do a thing here. How does this work? Newsfeed, yes. Oh, sorry. This is a great big thing I was supposed to click. Good, that's done. Dr. Wayne, your hot take is trying to push the viewing window. What's the phrase? That's the Overton window. The acceptable frame of public discourse. No. They're trying to validate and mainstream homophobic hate speech. That is absolutely their thing. And, I've said, and what's really disturbing is this is mainstream politicians and mainstream media. I mean, I've always said that about these, the internet-based fucking right-wing shit stirrers, and whenever they say free speech, what they mean is, I'm going to do everything in my power to normalize hate speech. They're bad enough, fucking shit trolls on the internet, but yeah, mainstream politicians and all the mainstream media trying to validate hate speech is just fucking contemptible. I mean, if they were consistent, I'd have at least some grudging respect for, well, at least they want free speech for everyone. But they don't. They regularly do everything in their power to destroy anyone that they perceive to be attacking right-wing interests. And it's just like, their hypocrisy is so open and is so blatant, and it just doesn't matter. It's like basic human decency doesn't come into it. It's bizarre. Mitchell, yes, Murdoch was born in Australia. Rupert is the son of Keith Murdoch, who started the media empire. And Rupert inherited it and built it up even bigger. And now, which one of his kids is likely that people saying is even more conservative? I think it's Lockie. I'm not Lachlan. But yeah, Murdoch took, because he wanted to, he was allowed to have media in England without being an English citizen, but he wanted to have media in America, and the laws there were you couldn't have media in America without being an American citizen. So he renounced Australian citizenship and became an American citizen, and he wasn't required to give up his media holdings in Australia, which is bullshit. Hey, Laura, how are you? Oh God, he's just a garbage. How is he still kicking around? I mean, you know, is he stealing the blood and vital organs of little orphan children? Like worse than Mr. Burns. It's weird. I talked to Rama if they believe in free speech, why is atheism frowned upon? I mean, forget that. Just the other religions aren't given equal footing. And the whole sort of, oh, we're going to back Israel for how did those same people react to Anthony Mundine? Okay, they fucking vilified him. How did I react to Anthony Mundine? He's a shithead who needs to shut the fuck up. It's, you know, and he wasn't under contract to anyone. So I don't think he suffered monetarily. But, you know, Mundine's a shithead and Falau's a shithead. Whereas to the fucking right, Mundine's evil because he's not their little darling, and Falau's a great big shining light. Like, get fucked. I always come back to one of the worst ones. There's this fuckwit who's on Sky News now, Chris Kenny, and he's always going on about free speech and oh, all these people just want to be offended and blah, 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 you know, again, wanting to normalize hate speech. But he fucking sued comedians. The Chaser did a bit on ABC, this is years ago, and they're going about Chris Kenny's always complaining about the bias on the ABC, and and one of them goes, he's absolutely right. There's appalling bias against him on the ABC, and they held up this really badly photoshopped picture of Chris Kenny fucking a dog, and they go, look at this, is absolutely fake, and they're circulating this at the ABC. It's absolutely terrible, and he sued them. And the joke was, he's not a dog fucker. And he sued them and he won for a fucking joke. And he will just blithely go on about free speech, free speech. But why's the left always so offended by racism and misogyny and homophobia and transphobia? Why don't you just get over it? There was a fucking joke made about him and he sued them. And yes, Justin, you're right. His son said he was a shithead because Chris Kenny made this ridiculous statement of, oh, this has stained my name. This will affect my family. And his son went, I'm his family. He's a shithead. And Justin, I don't watch Sky News. I'm just aware of the existence of Chris Kenny, and the things he says gets reported in other media. Safa, we are indeed ragging on Murdoch. Ahmed, free speech is the right cynical attempt to gain a platform. Oh, yeah, and you're right. They actively and aggressively deny free speech for anyone they disagree with. Like, you get this narrative in the US that, oh, universities, they're this repressive anti-free speech thing where you get attacked if you're not left-wing, and it's just, oh, communism. And multiple independent studies and analysis of free speech issues on American campuses have shown the overwhelming number of instances of someone being punished for something they said. It's left-wingers who are getting punished by right-wingers who complain about what they say. It's virtually the exact opposite of this ridiculous fucking right-wing talking point. It's almost like anytime they say anything, you can almost be guaranteed the opposite is the truth. Will you come back on your perch, Minty? I keep thinking you're going to knock something over there and smash something. There's so much trouble. Do they still have Sky News at Melbourne Central? I don't know. I I haven't seen it. But who knows? So have I heard about Google Project Veritas? Not specifically. I might have. What is it? I saw that. There was a thing in Canada Pride March with these guys wearing Nazi armbands attacked the Pride Parade and were being protected by the cops. Like, holy fuck. Just, I'm so sick of it. And it's just, like I said, it's like whatever they say, the opposite is probably the truth. Just, Fetch TV. I've had Foxtel for a long time. I originally got it for 2 reasons. I got it when my kids were quite young, because they had like half a dozen cartoon channels, keep the kids happy. And I wanted the comedy channel. And since then, I've got more, they've got more of the prestige channels have come up. Watch shows like Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead, and I get the movie channels as well, so that's pretty good. Fetch that. Justin, I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's no way Fetch TV has the shows that Foxtel has. But I'm saying that from a position of ignorance. I could look them up right now. Fetch explained. Okay, yes. Oh, that's saying they have Netflix. But Netflix has Netflix. So they're just being a channel for digital downloads? Like they're saying you can get things. So they're saying they have all the various playbacks, iView, SBS 7, 10, 9. Yeah, this is too many subscription services. Ahmed, I have not. Has Legion season 3 started, or is it due to start? I'm kind of like Legion. For those who don't know, Legion is a Marvel TV series, and the central character is an incredibly powerful psychic mutant. Like he can literally bend reality, and that understandably scares people. He's supposed to be a good guy, but even the other good guys can be quite scared of him because they thought, oh God, what if he goes wrong? And then they're led with this thing like, should we try and off him just in case one day he goes wrong? But it's that on the surface, but individual episodes basically center around a whole bunch of concepts in psychology and science and whatnot. Like there was one that was all about multiverse theory, and it's like individual episodes focus on different psychological concepts because this, they can manipulate reality. So you never actually know what's happening. So it's basically under the guise of a Marvel TV series about a really powerful psychic mutant. They do all these explorations of philosophy and psychology, the nature of reality. It's very interesting, but very, very trippy, like deliberately trippy from time to time, and there's all these questions over, who's good and who's bad. Sartha, isn't it Charles's son? That's, unless I missed it, that's never come up in the TV show. It's based on a Marvel comic, so maybe it is in the Marvel comic. It doesn't really seem to be the same universe as X-Men or other Marvel characters, because other Marvel characters are never mentioned. I don't know. But okay, if Legion started, I'll have to watch it because I want to see where they go with it. Yes, there's a question of, it's basically this guy is powerful enough to save the world or destroy the world. And so you're left with this question of which will it be? Will he save the world or destroy it? And the multiverse episode basically positive, well, you know, multiverse theory states basically all possibilities have happened. So in some of the things, he basically did control the world, and some he was good and some he was evil. Some because he'd never understood his psychic powers, it drove him insane. And so in some worlds he was good and some he was bad, some he was in control, and some, you know, the good guys had to kill him. So it really does play with some very out there ideas. So I love the way you said that stuff. I saw Captain Marvel on a plane. Yes, I think there was a bit in a movie where she was on a plane. I liked Captain Marvel's, nowhere near my favorite Marvel film, but I enjoyed it. And I do agree with you. Into the Spider-Verse, fucking great. I want them to do so many more movies in the style of Into the Spider-Verse. That's a multiverse story. A whole bunch of different Spider-Mans, spider beings from different dimensions all end up in the same place. It's very good, and I hope they do many more movies in that style. And I'll also say, I think the post-credit sequence is the funniest post-credit sequence I have seen in a Marvel movie. It was I just literally laughed out loud. Well, that's a big question, Safa. Is the Tom Holland Spider-Man going into the Venomverse either way? Who knows? The latest one, they've clearly opened up a multiverse concept. They're saying, you know, the Thanos thing opened a crack between dimensions. So I guess they're setting up for the next phase of Marvel movies. And if they're going to do cracks in dimensions and multiverses, it does mean they can do whatever they want. They can bring in whatever characters they want and do. I think I'm not really that big on the gossip, but I think they've kept a pretty tight lid on the future plans for the Marvel universe. I don't know that anything past the next Spider-Man has leaked. Oh, Tobey Maguire. Okay, here we go. Potentially unpopular opinion time. Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, massively overrated. The Andrew what's-his-name Spider-Man was better than Tobey Maguire one, and the Tom Holland one is better than Tobey Maguire as well. The Tobey Maguire ones were really cheesy. They don't hold up at all. No, they're weak. I just think people, it's people who watched the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man as a kid have formed in their head that it's the best, and it just isn't. So you put Garfield. No, Garfield's the cat that likes lasagna. We're talking about Spider-Man. But we are, of course, talking about Andrew Garfield, who only did the one Spider-Man movie. But I thought he was good. I don't hate Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but but I think we all agree Spider-Man 3 was terrible. I did love the bit. Spider-Man 2 was Dr. Octopus, wasn't it? I'm trying to remember because there's the absolute best bit of casting in those Spider-Man movies is J. Jonah Jameson, the actor that they cast to play him was fucking perfect. Oh my god, he was good. Yeah, that's him, J.K. Simmons. Oh my god, he's good. But he was so good as Jonah Jameson. The two things that I loved, one when Dr. Octavius wears the mechanical suit with the extra arms and going to call him Dr. Octopus, and Jonah Jameson says, yeah, what are the odds? How lucky is that? Guy with 8 arms is named Octavius, so he's Dr. Octopus now. And the one bit that was really underrated, I thought, but was really good, because he's always ragging on Peter Parker. He's telling Peter Parker he's worthless. Peter Parker, he's shit. Why do I give you any money? And he's always giving Peter Parker a bad time. And then Doc Octopus breaks into his room like seconds after he's been telling Peter Parker, you're a shithead, get out. And so Peter Parker, he knows he's just out there, and Dr. Octopus smashes into his office and he's threatening to kill him and says, where's Peter Parker? And he just goes, I don't know, no idea. I wouldn't show you. And it's just like, he's a fucking newspaper man. He defends his people. He defends his people at the risk of his own life. Like, the whole thing with shitting on Peter Parker is just how he is. It's just what he does. It's a power game he plays. But when a bad dude says, give up Peter Parker or I'll kill you, or maybe he just says, whoever's taking the pictures, give him up or I'll kill you. And he's just going, no idea, no idea, no idea. And it's just like, I think that scene was really underappreciated. He's because you just think he's a jerk who doesn't like Peter Parker and would throw him under a bus. But when his life's threatened, he absolutely defends his people. I thought that was great. And speaking of J.K. Simmons, a lot of people have probably seen it, but a very unsettling, very powerful film he's in about jazz music, basically. Oh my God, now I'm blanking on the name. I was going to call it Backbeat. It's not called Backbeat. It's one of these things where you people are going to help me again. He's a teacher at a very high-end music college, and he's really mean. And it centers around this young guy who wants to be a jazz drummer, and the way this guy is a teacher. Whiplash, thank you, Catherine. Whiplash was apparently a short film. I think the short film might be on YouTube. But Whiplash was originally a short film, then got made into a feature, and it's fucking great. It's very intense. And J.K. Simmons is, oh man, he is so mean in that. But yeah, it's a pretty intense experience watching the movie Whiplash. Not for the faint of heart. Yeah, so it's from about 2014, something like that. That sounds about right. Somewhere from 3 to 5 years ago, yeah. Very intense film. It's about obsession. And yeah, like he's the fucking teacher from hell. It's like he knows his stuff incredibly well. He's not a fake, but he's mean. He's one of those people who believes you toughen someone up by being cruel to them. He's got no time for being soft. Yeah, that film is a very intense experience. So isn't he a cop in the DCEU? I don't know. I don't remember seeing him in any DC movies. Which cop would be my question? I don't remember seeing him in DC movies, and I've seen them all except Aquaman. I so went to see them all, and so blah by now. Even though most people said Aquaman was one of the better DC movies, I just wasn't motivated to go and see it. Unlike a lot of people, I think Man of Steel is a very good movie. Again, another possible unpopular opinion time, but the Christopher Reeve Superman movies are shit. They're cheesy and shit. And I didn't like them when they came out. And they completely fucked up Lex Luthor. I mean, you know, little what's his name being like Lex Luthor Jr. is shit as well. But Gene Hackman, you know, that wasn't Lex Luthor. That was fucking shit. Not that I dislike Gene Hackman. I like Gene Hackman, but the Christopher Reeve movies were shit. I think Man of Steel was a good Superman movie. Batman v Superman was, and Justice League was, Wonder Woman was good. You know, Batman v Superman was, Justice League was, Safi, you reckon Aquaman's better than Captain Marvel? Most people said Aquaman was pretty good. Charlie, nothing wrong with liking cheesy shit. But yeah. Catherine, yeah, I reckon I agree with you. Christopher Reeve Superman was like the TV Batman series, just campy. I'm not on board with it at all. Dr. Obama, thoughts on the Watchmen series? I'm going to watch it. I'd like the trailer for it. I don't blame Alan Moore for being really shitty that they're doing it. But, yeah, it's got potential. What the hey? I will be interested to see. It's coming on soon, I think, the Watchmen TV series. Another thing, like I was into Watchmen back in the day. I had the Watchmen graphic novel, the comic nerd. I really liked the Watchmen graphic novel. And was it Zack Snyder directed the movie? And again, people ragged on that a fair bit. But I honestly think watching it, it would be hard to make a better Watchmen movie than that, because it's very complex material. There's a lot that goes on in it. I think it would be quite difficult to make a better Watchmen movie than the one that's made. I think, you could do a prestige TV series when if you were dedicating an hour to each issue of the Watchmen comic, but I thought the movie was pretty good, and it would have been hard to do better. The casting was mostly good. I thought it was Dr. Manhattan with his dick out was pretty funny. It was pretty good. Oh my God, the actor who played Rorschach, he owned it, man. Any of the other roles, even though most of them were pretty good, you could recast them and I wouldn't think much of it, like if you were redoing it. But the actor who played Rorschach, he just owned it. He owned it. That he was incredible. He did it so well. And yeah, always remember the way he did the thing when the fight in the prison mess hall when someone tries to get him and he throws the oil over the dude, and he's just like, as the guards drag him off, he's just screaming at the prisoners going, "You got it wrong. I'm not locked in here with you." you're locked in here with me. It's just like, oh, I'm crazy and I'm going to fuck you up. Yeah, he was the high point. I agree with you, Dr. Obama. Missing some of the minor themes, yeah, the vendor and the boy, but even the big thing they left out, which I assume they felt like they didn't have enough time to develop, was in the comic, Ozymandias, his way to destroy the world was to have this interdimensional monster appear and cause a shockwave that killed most of New York City. And there's a whole thing about how that was created, how he hired writers and designers to come up with this alien monster, and then killed them all after they'd finished their work. And in the movie, they did a thing where he faked an energy surge that matched Dr. Manhattan's energy profile, so it looked like Dr. Manhattan was responsible for the destruction, and everyone united against that. So that's good. I remember Mystery Men, Charlie. Mystery Men was very good, let down only by the fact there was never like a money shot. Like there's a thing at the end, like the Mystery Men were all going to go and use their powers. I think they let us as an audience down by not actually having a payoff and having the Mystery Men team actually use their powers in a fight. And I think that's what stopped it from being a great movie. I think we needed a payoff that we didn't really get. But generally speaking, Mystery Men is worth watching if you get a chance. They're like B-list superheroes, and it's really funny because it just makes a whole bunch of jokes about the superhero genre, and it is very funny. And I think the only thing that stopped it from being a great movie is we never really got a payoff of the Mystery Men team using their powers. Because they do actually have powers, even if they're very B-grade powers. But there was another one at about the same time that was a similar theme, like a spoof of superheroes. No, Safa, the Watchmen were the only superheroes, and in fact, Dr. Manhattan was the only one that had superpowers. The rest just had weapons and fighting training. In the Watchmen world, there are no super beings apart from Dr. Manhattan. They're costumed vigilantes. They're Batman. They have weapons and combat training, but they don't have any superpowers. The only one with superpowers is Dr. Manhattan. The Green Hornet movie with Seth, what's his name? Again, that could have been good. I don't think it was good. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed watching it, but it wasn't great. Oh yeah, Safa, the Watchmen were not the same universe. They're not in the DC universe at all. The Watchmen are their own thing. They're definitely not in the DC universe. That's him, Seth Rogen as Green Hornet. Hey, look, we're halfway, and I promised I was going to make a zombie, and I came up with how I was going to do it too. I got the stuff handy. I'm going to do my own version. Okay, there's my cocktail shaker. Oh, I probably have to wash it. I have to rinse my cocktail shaker. It's got residue from Angry's bad idea in it, which turned into Angry's pleasant surprise because it actually tasted good. So I'll leave you with Mimsy with her back to you. And I'm just going to be over here for a second and rinse this. The joys of doing this in the kitchen. Have to do a clean up. I can. No, not for you, Mimsy. You were supposed to be looking after the live stream. What are you doing? You're ruining everything, Mimsy. Oh my God. I gave her one job. You had You had one job, Mimsy. Look after the live stream. And she didn't do it. I'll use this ice to shake. Put that in the shaker. Now I want a big ice cube for my tiki mug. Now there's a reason to have a tiki mug because I'm having a tiki cocktail. All right. Big square of ice. Oh, and I'll get some juice while I'm over here. Because that's the thing about the zombie. It has fruit juices in it. Okay. I'm going to have a few different juices. And quite a few alcohols. Okay, so I lined them up earlier because I knew what I was going to do. So, usually a couple sorts of rum in a zombie. So, I've got some Captain Morgan, spiced rum. Don't have any white rum. You know, I probably don't need it. So, rum. More rum. The Kraken. Black spiced rum. This is going to be a little bit spicy. 2 different sorts of spiced rum. Which is not the traditional thing to do, but this is the angry zombie, so it's its own thing. Now, some fruity flavors. I'm going to do my apple pear brandy. Obstwasser aus Apfeln und Birnen. Apple and pear brandy, basically. None of this is high alcohol stuff like what I made on Tuesday. This is just average. And the fruity flavor from orange Cointreau. So for what's my electricity company? Energy Australia? Why? You're going to offer me a deal. The Cointreau and some juices. A few different juices. This lime juice. Lime is a fairly traditional thing to put in a tiki cocktail. Oh, moving units and need to reconnect. I'm not giving a glowing endorsement of Energy Australia. I'm not saying anything bad about them either. But I worked for them a couple of years ago. And when I was working there, I got a special... Shadow Eyes, hello. This is pineapple coconut juice. And a bit of orange juice too, which so this is a very fruity tropical cocktail. That's an interesting observation, Dr. Obama. The Watchmen movie is cheaper than any of the Big Mama's House movies. I don't think that's purely about quality. So yeah, I got a 50% discount while I was there, and I don't work there anymore, but I've never bothered to change it. Right. And bitters. Where's my bitters? There. Put some bitters in as well. Right. Shadow Eyes. This is an angry zombie I'm mixing up now. Rum, apple brandy, and Cointreau, and a bunch of juice. I think I answered your question, Safra. I don't get the discount anymore, but I changed the contractor. This is more volume than usual because of all the fruit juice I put in it. So it's very orange, as you can see. And my last little angry touch to it. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, this was your idea, wasn't it? This is the angry touch. Put my red absinthe on as a float on top. Just a little bit of it. Fruit juice isn't healthy. Fruit juice is all sugar. So I've never made, see, I love the little red rim. Never made this before, so this is another experiment taste-wise. So we'll see what. That's pretty good. Ooh, you know, you drink that little bit of absinthe on top is a really sharp flavor on it. Ah, ooh, yowza. It tastes mostly like absinthe, quite honestly. That's the dominant taste in it, which is funny because the one I had on Tuesday had noticeably more absinthe than that. But I've asked, did you want to try my cocktail, Mimsy? I bet she would actually stick her nose in it if I held it up to her. She always feels like she's missing out, don't you? If I'm ever eating or drinking something, you want to know about it. When I get out of the shower, you want to jump in the shower and bloody lick the water off the ground, which concerns me because I'm worried that's like human soup and you're going to develop a taste for the humans. Suffered as Mrs. Angry like cocktails. Yes, I regularly, particularly like Friday, Saturday night, I'll make cocktails for the two of us. Mrs. Angry likes gin, to make a gin cocktails. I think our favorite cocktail is an old classic called the Sidecar, which is just, it's a very simple one. It's Cointreau brandy and lemon juice. Very yummy. And you can vary that a bit. Like you can have any orange liqueur like triple sec or orange curacao and use brandy or cognac or whatever. Oh, Safra, it's way cheaper to make your own than buying pre-made. Like, if someone even made this cocktail in the volumes I made it, it'd probably cost you $30. And, you know, it's, you get a big bottle of various things for like $40. Oh my God, Nelly, how to break my train of thought. Make the comment, your cat eats your earwax and licks your underwear when you're on the toilet. Yep, okay, that completely broke my train of thought. Dr. Bum, do I let my pet sleep with it? She does. She sleeps with me. She likes to. Shadow doesn't. Shadow's weird. You've never seen Shadow on a live stream because she won't settle down and come around. Shadow will be outside somewhere now. Shadow spends the night outside. Mimsy prefers to sleep next to me. She'll sleep next to me and take up as much of the room as she can. Charlie, you had a dog that ate your undies. Oh my God. Shadows. Is that what we called the drink? Was it Angry's big mistake or Angry's bad idea? I don't even remember because I was fucking hammered. This is nowhere near as strong. This is maybe half to 2/3 as strong, probably only half as strong. Half to 2/3. Half to 2/3 as strong as Angry's bad idea. Which turned into Angry's pleasant surprise because it actually tasted quite nice. But I was fucking hammered. Oh my God. That was like, man. It was my only thing. See, yeah, I woke up fine, Safa. I wasn't sick. I didn't have a hangover. I was fine. I was at work all day. No problem whatsoever. But I really found by the end of the live stream, as I went to bed, it was like, oh my God. Jessica, my magic potion, the Angry Zombie. It's Captain Morgan rum, Kraken rum, Cointreau, apple and pear brandy, and various fruit juices, lime, pineapple, coconut, orange juice, and a little floater of absinthe on top. You can probably still see it's orange is a little bit red at the top. It's red absinthe at the top. Ha! Ahmed, you saw an alcohol vending machine in Australia. I did not know such a thing existed. It's actually pretty good, Jessica. Very, very tropical tasting. I mean, the absinthe is quite sharp. I might try making one of those without the absinthe, actually. I quite like it. I sound like a real hipster wanker, I think, drinking absinthe but I do actually like absinthe as a mixer. Oh my God, the one I made on Tuesday, I might even risk making another one on the weekend. But it's like, if I have that, that's like it. That's my one drink, because it was absinthe, which is, my absinthe here is 75% alcohol, green chartreuse, which is 55% alcohol, and my herbal infusion, which is an indeterminate amount of alcohol, because it was originally Polish rectified spiritus, which is 95% alcohol, but I diluted it heaps over the year with vodka, which is 40%. So it's probably 60 or 70% alcohol. And I put some sweetener. I put agave syrup and lemon juice in it as well. A little bit extra in my cocktail shaker. And I was worried it was going to taste terrible. So called it Angry's Bad Idea, but it actually tasted quite good. So it became rechristened Angry's Pleasant Surprise. I still think in terms of marketing, Angry's Bad Idea is a better name from a marketing point of view. So I think cognac is strong. I think there's a lot of variations among cognac. I've got, which one have I got? I think I've got a Hennessy cognac. Where is it? I've got just brandy, which is, I don't know, probably 40%. Where's the cognac? I just decided after payday one week I'd get some cognac because I could afford. Let me have a look. What's up here? So brandy. Yeah, that's less than 40%. Here it is. My Hennessy VSOP. No, it's only 40%. It's kind of average. The average. Okay. That rye whiskey is 45%. So I reckon the average for spirits is about 40%. Some are less, some are more. Dr. Barmer, I should publish a cocktail recipe book. I've been thinking of like doing a cocktail Instagram channel. Ooh, orange juice ice cubes, Jessica. My brother did a thing. He was actually running like a fruit and veg grocer, and he got blood oranges in, and no one bought them, so he juiced them all and froze them in ice cube trays. And then we were having drinks just like with a blood orange ice cube, and just pour a shot of vodka over it, and it would slowly melt the blood orange ice cube. That was good. So Ahmed, what are you suggesting? A beefeater, which is gin mixed with Red Bull and a dash of grenadine, thin slices of blood orange, orange juice, ice cubes. Oh, and they have a sugar rim. Okay. Wow. Okay, I like that. That's pretty wild. So that's gin, Red Bull, grenadine, and then blood orange garnish with orange juice ice cubes. I should make some fruit juice ice cubes, actually, orange juice or blood orange or something. I like having a bit of lemon juice or lime juice in a cocktail. So maybe a lemon or lime ice cube. I don't know. That might be a bit much. But yeah, maybe I should get some blood oranges because they make good flavor. And of course, it's a good visual as well because they're red. So if you use a clear spirit at blender. So see, Shadow doesn't even play on the cat stand. Mimsy's the only one who plays on it. Shadow's just weird. Shadow will run, and she'll run up to you sometimes like she wants to be patted. She wants pats, and she'll act like she's going to settle down on you, but won't. Sometimes she'll sit next to you, but won't sit on you. Whereas Mimsy will sit on you. She loves sitting on a lap, and she loves sleeping next to me. Shadow doesn't. She's weird. Jessica, do I like bubble teas? I don't mind bubble teas. I don't drink them a lot, but I don't mind them. And there's a couple specialty bubble tea places. Oh, Jessica, there is a place. It's in Melbourne Central. I went with some of my YouTube friends one time. They do bubble tea cocktails. They actually had some pretty good cocktails. That is not true. That is absolutely not true. Tapioca balls from bubble tea end up in your stomach and only be removed for surgery. That you've fallen prey to bloody urban legend. That is absolutely not true. Oh, Jessica, you're in Melbourne, are you? It's right up the top floor of Melbourne Central. What's it called? I'll look it up. I'm just going Melbourne, and it has video games there, and it's like they're trying to make it look like a Japanese Lucky and Sons. That's what it's called. It's arcade. It's like a video game arcade and bar, and they do alcoholic bubble teas there. And they have some recent ones, some sort of classic video game. I think they're trying to do a vibe like a Japanese pachinko parlor. But I went there with a few friends, and we had quite a bit of fun there. And their cocktails were not bad at all. They had some. Oh man, I fucked up my shoulder. How did I do that? Just went to scratch my back, and my shoulder went. No, I'm gonna have to do some exercises on that shoulder. Yeah, they have some traditional cocktails, but they had some bubble tea cocktails as well. And we did have fun there, I have to admit. You know, and they had just some straight video games, some of those, skill games that you're trying to get tickets for to redeem for some shitty prize. But it was fun. Oh, and they did food too. The food was actually pretty interesting as well. So yeah, Lucky and Sons is not a bad place to go out to. Oh my God, I went to it's like my favorite secret bar in Melbourne called Bar Americano. Like if I'm being a real hipster wanker, I'll talk about this place. It's like it's in a back alley off a back alley off a back alley. And they've got this real sort of speakeasy vibe, and it can only hold about a dozen people. And they have a rule that, no cameras, no photos. You just got to live the experience. But they change their cocktails, I think once a month, semi-regularly anyway. And I went there the other day, and they had this one they call a hot and cold pina colada. And the barman told me it's literally hot and cold. And I went, okay, no idea how you do that. I've got to get one of that. And he says, yeah, this is like the best ever. And how it's hot and cold, it's like the drink part is like a somewhat traditional pina colada, but with secret recipe in it. But this foam on it, they've, I just thought it was like a whipped cream thing they were doing, but the foam was hot. So you've got this little glass, and you've got your pina colada with this foam on top, and you tip it up, and the foam is warm, and the drink is cold, and it was wild. So yeah, it's a great place. Like I said, I feel like I'm being a hipster wanker talking about, oh yeah, Bar Americano, only a dozen people can fit in there, and it's literally there's little, in the way the Melbourne street grid works, and Melbourne is just a grid of streets. Yeah, that was awesome, Mimsy. You're not an idiot. Okay. For those unfamiliar with Melbourne, the CBD is a grid, and there's like the major street and then a lane in the middle of the block, then major street. So like from the station from Flinders Street, you have Flinders Street, then Flinders Lane, then Collins Street, then Little Collins Street, and Burke Street and Little Burke Street, and so on and so on. And so to get to this Bar Americano, you go to Little Collins Street, which is, you know, a lane, and then there's a causeway lane off that. So it's a lane off a lane, and then there's another smaller lane off that, and Bar Americano is down there. So Bar Americano is this hidden little place, only a dozen people can fit in, and it's in a lane that's off a lane that's off a lane. But it's really good. Yes, Ahmed, CBD is the Aussie word for downtown core, Central Business District. So if it's full, you can't get in. If it's full, they'll close the door. But there's a couple bars in Melbourne that only hold half a dozen to a dozen people, and the idea is you don't spend the whole night there. It's like you have a drink or two and go on, and you don't go in a big group. Justin, does the clock in Melbourne Central sing? Yeah, that clock in Melbourne Central is the cheesiest fucking thing in Melbourne. On the hour, it does this. It's like it's made to look like a pocket watch, and then it opens up with this clockwork thing with koalas and kangaroos. It's cheesy as fuck. It's embarrassing. Safa, it's called Bar Americano. And apparently the guy behind it is quite famous for different bars and restaurants. I literally only found it because anyone who follows me on Mimsy making a bunch of noise going out a door. Anyone who follows me on socials knows I post lots of pictures of street art, and I knew there was this. Oh God, what have I done there? I knew there was this particular lane where people had stuck, instead of being the normal spray paint street art, they put a bunch of stuff in frames and stuck the frames to the wall. And I literally just went down there one day to take photos, and lo and behold, there was this weird little bar there, and I went and checked it out. And I've taken friends there a couple of times, and it's fun. So it's in Pressgrave Place. So to find it, like I said, you go down Little Collins Street and you look for things pointing to. There's a Causeway Hotel. I think it might be called Causeway Lane. So you go down the lane where the Causeway Hotel is, which I think might be, oh no, it's Howie Place. Okay, it's Howie Place, but you see the sign for the Causeway Hotel, and then Pressgrave Place runs off that, and Bar Americano's down Pressgrave Place. So it's like Little Collins Street, off Swanston Street, then off Little Collins Street you go down Howie Place, and off Howie Place you go down Pressgrave Place, and you find Bar Americano. Looks kind of like if you saw it in a movie, it would be a bad idea to go down there because it looks really seedy. But yeah. Oh, and what's the price of supper? I was like around $20 for a cocktail, but this one I had the hot and cold pina colada. That's their most expensive drink. That was $30, but the barman did say apparently that was the same price the boss had 10 years ago when he served it at a different venue. So that's not bad. Jessica, hit me up on this. For reals, I know a few places in the CBD. For reals, hit me up on the socials, Facebook or Twitter or whatever. If you want me to recommend a couple of bars in the city, just hit me up on the socials and I'll share them with you. Because I found a few. Okay, I have found some of them myself. Like I found Bar Americano on myself, but this young barman there, when I went there with a couple of YouTube friends, he said, "Oh, do you want some other recommendations? Here's some places." And he gave us 4 or 5 places as recommendations. And I checked them out, and they were all good. I found one too, like during the comedy festival. I went out and saw a few shows at the comedy festival with Mrs. Angry, and we found, I found it on Facebook and I wanted to check it out. It was very good. There's a bar called the Trinket Bar. It's good, food and drink. Their cocktails are really good and they have good food as well. So Trinket Bar is good. There's one called, and this is one that the barman at Bar Americano recommended. It's called Arlequin. Which I think is named after the medieval clown, the Italian clown Arlecchino. But this is one of the places. There are a few places in Melbourne that serve food to 3 a.m. Or some places are 24 hours. Arlequin is one, and they made probably the best toasted sandwich I'd ever had in my life. It was like some sort of cured and marinated meat in oh my God, it was just so good is what I'm saying. So Arlequin was very good for both cocktails and food. And another one I stumbled on, I think they call that an absent Bar Ampere. That's it. I was just searching out. So it's in Russell Place, another laneway in Melbourne, and it serves food till 3 a.m. They do burgers and stuff. God, there's some good places in Melbourne. Shadow Eyes, I've made you hungry. I'll suffer. Melbourne definitely has better nightlife than Sydney. Sydney's killed their nightlife. Oh, Jessica, Bartronica is a fun nerd bar. It has classic arcade games. Plus, you can book a thing. You can play like PlayStation 2 games and old Nintendo games. They actually have the consoles there, and you can play the old games. But they have some coin-operated pinballs and classic arcade games as well. Bartronica is fun. I made drinking Crown's like Disneyland for hours. I do not go to Crown much. I do occasionally. What else is there? Oh, someone took me to a place like Bartronica is a video game place. There's another video game place, the name of which escapes me. But there's one place upstairs is like a tabletop gaming shop, and you can actually play tabletop games there. But you buy the various tabletop games. And downstairs is a nerd-themed bar. And so aside from normal drinks, their cocktails, they have like nerd-themed cocktails, like you can get a mana potion or a health potion. Of course, the mana potion's blue and the health potion's red, and so they have nerd-themed cocktails. And I've forgotten what that's called too. I kind of know where it is. Someone took me there one night. I could probably find it again. But there's a few nerd-themed bars in Melbourne. Ahmed, the strip clubs in Melbourne are different from the rest of the world. It is a long time since I've been to a strip club. In Melbourne, King Street in the Central Business District has a whole series of like lap dancing club. Justin, it's Dungeon Crawl. You're a genius. Yes. The bar I was thinking of was called Dungeon Crawl. Yes. Yeah, King Street in Melbourne has a bunch of laptop dancing clubs. Quite a while since I've been to it. I'm not trying to suggest I'm good or something. I just haven't been to a fucking strip club for a long time. I do remember there's one that's been replaced, and I have no idea if the replacement is more upmarket. But a long time ago, like over 10 years ago, some guys I was working with go, oh, no, we have to go to this place. It's called Hosie's, and it is the diviest fucking strip club in history. And because there's no cover charge, so you get some real low rent characters in there, and the strippers sort of pass a bucket around for you to tip them and whatnot. And it was a very funny experience, but it was without doubt the saddest, most low rent strip club I've ever been in. I've not been in that many. I've been in a couple in Sydney. I've been in a couple in Melbourne. I've been in one in Las Vegas that a local took me to. And so it wasn't on the strip. It was actually sort of in the suburb. So it had its own sort of seedy thing going on. Yeah, I'm not a strip club expert, is what I'm saying. But Hosie's, which doesn't exist anymore, was it was so fucking special. And that's special in quotation marks. Natalie, you don't want to see even the outside of it. I don't know. See, through the magic of social media, through Twitter and Facebook and even YouTube, I've ended up coming in contact with both men and women who've worked as strippers and escorts and porn stars, and they're generally very interesting people. They generally have very interesting stories to tell. Like I said, again, not trying to big note myself or say I'm above that now. I don't think I've been in a strip club for like 15 years. It's just I just haven't. It's just I actually don't have that much interest in going into one. I don't have any aversion to them. I don't think they're evil or sick or wrong. I just haven't been in one probably for 15 years. It's interesting, but I have to admit, I don't know if you've heard the term SWERF. Stands for Sex Worker Excluding RadFem, Radical Feminist. Natalie, I completely agree. You're not being judgmental to the people who work in strip clubs, but you have no interest in seeing them topless or nude or whatever. SWERF is a term for, and these people had self-described themselves as radical feminists, and they argue that all sex work, all pornography is inherently evil and wrong, and all women who work in any flavor of sex work, whether that's stripping or porn or escort work, are exploited and don't have control over. And they basically do not listen to the voices of sex workers. And it's perfectly valid to talk about the exploitation that exists in sex work, but exploitation exists in all work. But if you're going to talk about sex work and the relative merits or demerits of it, if you don't actually include sex work in that, then sex workers, I should say, then you're a bit of an idiot. You have to listen to the people who work in the industry. And I have to admit that in the past, I'd been convinced of the thing like, oh no, anyone who does porn or stripping or whatnot, they're just being exploited and they don't have agency. But again, through the magic of the internet, through the magic of social media, I ended up coming into contact with people who do work in the various facets of sex work. And I soon learned I should not speak for them. I should not say what is and isn't acceptable. The people who actually perform the work are the ones who should say what is and isn't acceptable. And there is absolutely exploitation in the various facets of the sex work industry, whether that be stripping or porn or escort work or whatever. But there's exploitation in all work, basically. But if you do not listen to the voices of people who are actually sex workers, I think you're a bit of a shithead, honestly. Just because you're bi-curious, but you're monogamous. See, that's the thing. This is the weird thing, because I know lots of bi people. I'm like boring, white bread, cis hetero male, right? Oh no, you had to duck out. We're talking about sex, bro. You came in at exactly the right time. So I'm like Mr. Boring, white bread, cis hetero male, right? But I've got a lot of bi friends. I have gay friends. Like I said, I've come into contact with people through the internet who are involved in different aspects of the sex work industry. And I try, what I do these days is try to listen to people. I have opinions, but they're just opinions. They're not based on lived experience. So probably this is one thing that was arguably difficult for me to learn. But I'm glad I learned it, that in certain things, I need to just listen to other people and their lived experience and put my ideas to the side for the moment. Yeah. Safra, is there an entrance fee? Is there an entrance fee to strip clubs? I think a lot of them do, but you're also meant to like pay the strippers. I'm the wrong person to ask because, like I said, I haven't been to one for like 15 years. And different strip clubs probably have different rules. I think generally they have a cover charge, and you're also expected to tip the strippers. But yeah, oh, there you go, Jessica. As you're saying, it's $30 to $50. Depends. Yeah, I mean, hey, maybe for research, I should go to one of the clubs on King Street in Melbourne. What can be really funny, and I've had this because like I live on one side of town, and I've had things where I've been at a friend's place that's on the other side of town, and the quickest way to get home is to go through the city, and this is like on a Saturday or Friday night, and ended up going down King Street, where there's a whole bunch of like lap dancing clubs in Melbourne, and the crowds thronging the streets and something else. Justin, you have a low opinion of people who cheat on the spouses. I have a low opinion of people who cheat, and that's whether you have an affair. If you're if you're in a relationship where you say to your partner, oh, I'm going to go to a strip club, or I'm going to go to a brothel or whatnot. And if that's part of your relationship, hunky dory. But if you're lying to your partner, that's cheating. That's, I mean, I don't think I feel pretty certain I can say I haven't been to a strip club since I've been with Mrs. Angry. We've been together like 13, 14. Well, Safra, obviously you're not cheating on anyone if you're single. But, and again, it's not like I haven't gone to a strip club since I've been in this relationship because I'm not allowed to. I haven't really wanted to. I mean, I guess if I wanted to, I'd kind of say to Mrs. Angry, what would be your view if I went to a strip club? And if she said, I'd feel hurt, I'd feel slighted, I'd feel cheated on, then I wouldn't do it. But I'm talking completely in the abstract because I have no real urge to go to one. Ooh, God, Dr. Obama, that's a big question. If you're with someone and they're cheating on someone else, well, you need to have a talk. You need to have a big old talk about it. I'm a believer in openness and communication. I won't pretend I haven't failed on that front in the past. I think everyone has problems at some point, but yeah, don't. Cheating is bad. And there's usually an underlying thing that you need to talk about, but yeah. Oh god damn. No, Justin, yeah, your dad cheated on your mum. No, see, that's fucked. That's fucked. And the thing, there's open relationships and there's monogamous relationships and there's polyamorous relationships and there's even polyamorous relationships usually aren't completely open. You need communication. You need to talk about, hey, I want to do the following. And I think even some people are better at it than others, but sometimes no matter how progressive and open you feel, stuff can come up that you feel really uncomfortable talking about. But cheating and not being open and not being honest is bad. And if something happens, I think one of two things happens. Either you're able to talk it through, the person who perpetrated it owns what they did, talks about it, talks about why they did it, whether, they're sorry, what they're doing, or, the relationship's fucked. Humans are complex, though. I mean, hey, I'll do I'll do another recording with Eva this weekend. I did one last weekend. I'm trying to build up stuff to have a podcast happening. I will actually, because Eva, and if you haven't watched the video I uploaded last weekend, you should, because it's quite good. But besides writing sex and relationship advice columns and a book on sex, Eva has practiced open relationships, and I think she'll have some insights on it, because I've never been. It's just not my thing. I've never been in an open or polyamorous relationship. I've only ever been in sort of one-on-one relationships. But Eva has that experience and perspective. So I'll get her to talk about it on the weekend. Oh God, Justin, what do you do when your parents cheat? Man, that's fucked, because if one parent has completely fucking screwed over the other parent, I can understand if I think you said, because your dad cheated, you hadn't spoken to him since you found out. I actually understand that, because it's a really shitty thing to do. I just get aromantic, asexual. Some aromantics are sexual, some asexuals are romantic. Some people are both aromantic and asexual. Asexual means you don't really experience sexual attraction and sexual desire. Aromantic means you don't experience romantic feelings. So some people are romantic but asexual, like they have no sexual desire, they don't want to have sexual interaction, but they want to be in a romantic relationship and have love. Some people are aromantic in that they don't feel romantic attachment to people, but they fuck people. So you get all sorts of. Humans are a fascinating spectrum, quite honestly. Oh God, Ahmed, maintaining a long-term relationship is difficult. Like I've been with Mrs. Angry for like 13, 14 years. Super happy. Like and this is why I've never gone from open relationships. It's not my thing. I'm not into it. I'm like super happy, super fulfilled, but it's not without its bumps. Like we've had to work through stuff over the years. And it's almost always because when communication breaks down, I mean, you raise a point, like someone lets themselves go or is sexually unavailable, and often you as a person may feel like it's really difficult to talk to your partner. Like, I'll feel like a jerk if I say this or say that, but it's really how I feel. And there's no two ways about it. It can be really difficult, but it's the kind of thing you have to work at. Just you're saying people tell you you'll regret not trying to repair things for each other. Look, dude, give it time. All I say is give it time. If you've only had a limited amount of time to process it and handle it, I completely understand that you just can't relate to him, give it time. Maybe after time, you'll be able to talk more with your dad. You know, and a central thing, again, I'm talking from the outside and I could easily be completely wrong, but I feel like a central thing would be your dad would need to admit to you how much he fucked up. You would really need to go, oh, that was real shit. All that stuff I did was really shit. And I really understand why you're pissed off at me, because it really wasn't acceptable behavior. And yeah, deserve some punishment for it. But man, you feel how you feel. And someone from the outside telling you you should feel differently is kind of bullshit, quite honestly. But I think maybe when you give it some time, you need to his current partner. Well, that's yeah, it sounds like there's a bunch of shit that needs to be worked out that's probably gonna take a while. So the fact that you're not okay with him now, I think, is perfectly acceptable. But, you know, maybe you can work something out with time. I don't agree with people who say you must arbitrarily support a family member no matter what. It's like, no, fuck it. If they've done something really bad, they need to make that up to you, quite honestly. So comedian Aziz Ansari said he'd divorce his wife if she didn't like Game of Thrones. He's a very good comedian. Who remembers when Aziz Ansari, who's very progressive, very hip, very with it, very feminist and all those sort of things, and a woman published a thing that she basically had a very bad experience with him on a date, that shit happened that she felt very uncomfortable with. And it was, when you read the story, it's really weird. Like, they had a date and they went back to a hotel room and it's like, it's going to get it on. And like, he went down on her and she wasn't okay with it, but she didn't know how to say she wasn't okay with it. And she felt like she didn't have control of the situation. And basically, from her perspective, it felt like a bad date and it felt like she was coerced into sexual activity with him. And that's the complete antithesis of his public persona. And he, to his credit, kind of owned that and said, like, oh, fuck, that's not how I saw that. And that's something that makes me stop and think I have to consider and reassess and not make the assumption that I'm automatically on the right page and I'm automatically hip with everything that's happening. I think a lot of people, when they saw the story, they're going, well, that woman seems to be describing a bad date, a not great date, where she felt like there was some social pressure on her to put out when it wasn't what she was really into, and he didn't pick up that she wasn't really into it. And to me, that whole thing was very interesting, because a guy who had a public persona of being very pro #Me Too, you know, pro feminist ideals and whatnot, could still be in a situation where, unbeknownst to him, a woman felt coerced to go along with sexual activity that he thought she was completely on board with, but she honestly wasn't completely on board with. To his credit, I feel like he owned it and said, you know what? Okay, cool. She's not saying I coerced her or assaulted her. She's saying she ended up in a situation that she did stuff she didn't really want to do, but she felt obligated to do. And I need to look at that and understand that. I mean, why are we infantilizing grown-ass women? Complex issue, my friend, complex issue. I feel like every time someone says, oh, she can't say no after she said yes, I mean, like an actual real experience. And this happened to me when I was quite young. This is not recently. I was only about 21, 22. And honestly, a woman who I did not coerce who had my dick in her mouth and then ended up saying, oh, she didn't want to go through with it. And I was actually okay with it. So every time a guy says, oh, she can't say no after she said yes. Yeah, she honestly can. Because people are weird. People are complex. People are messed up. And this was an incredibly weird thing. This was actually around my my uni graduation, and it was a very weird chain of events. But basically, it was at a party, and this young lady, I was like 21, 22. She was probably 18, 19. She was legal. She was definitely legal because I knew she was a friend of a friend, and I know she was over 18. Don't try to say anyone. But she was enamored of me, and I for reals, I was gonna say good night to her. I walked her back to where she was staying, and I was gonna say good night to her at the door, and she fucking grabbed me, and it went hell. And we went in. Ahmed, I get what you're saying. You've got an erection, blood's boiling, it's hard to stop. This is not an exaggeration. This is a literal, true thing. Like, basically, without me advancing it to this stage, she had my dick in her mouth at one point, but then went, oh, she was magnanimously going to give me a wristy, which it's like, that doesn't usually work for me. And I'm like, it's honestly, it's okay, it's fine. So whenever a guy says, oh, I can't stop as part a certain point, and I go, no, you can, seriously. This girl, she came on to me physically in a big way. Like I was literally going to say goodbye to her at the door, and she dragged me in, and she had my dick in her mouth, and then she went, oh, I don't want to go. And she was, magnanimously going to give me a wristy. That doesn't really work for me. And I said, look, honestly, it's okay. And I ended up leaving. So when a guy says, oh, but at a certain point, you can't stop. And I go, you can always stop. When a person, either male or female, can withdraw consent, and you need to respect that. And this is an actual real thing I went through. And not now that I'm woke and older and a bit more in control of myself. I was 21 or 22 at this stage. So I don't really have a lot of time for any guy who says, oh, but it gets to a certain point, you can't stop. You can always fucking stop, okay? Remember that is not... Natalie, you can finish yourself. I literally went to where I was staying and whacked off. You all want to hear stories about me whacking off, don't you? No. I overshared. But yes. I think, Natalie, you've hit on the big point. If it doesn't work out, you can go home and finish yourself. You really can. You really can. Yeah, people, and I mean, I could highlight a lot of incidents in my life with women who behaved in really fucked ways. So I'm not an MRA. It's like every time you talk to some guy who's an MRA, because they'll cite something, and sometimes they are actually correct, and they go, oh, there was this incident where a woman behaved badly. Yes. Sometimes Men behave badly. Sometimes women behave badly. People behave badly, basically. But the idea is that because you had a bad experience, you are going to have this supremely negative attitude towards an entire gender. Like, oh no, fuck, dude, what the fuck? Dr. Obama. I think Trump would like to hear about me whacking off, honestly. What Trump really loves is the way the Australian government treats asylum seekers, but he'd like to hear about me whacking off, quite honestly. I think he'd really be into it. Oh my God. They're together and share a yeah, stacked on a bike, practically knocked yourself out. You went to have sex and it was so painful. Yeah, that's a weird thing. Sometimes when you're in an established relationship, you have to acknowledge things that are out of the ordinary. It's really weird. Oh my God, Justin, yes. I've heard the stories about men having entire second series families in secret. It's wild. Oh, that's too much work. I couldn't do that. So weird. Dr. Ravi, you think I've got a big CIA file? Oh my God, I was listening to the Blind Boy podcast today, and he was talking about how now that America have changed the rules that to get into America, you have to hand over all your social media information. He's like, yeah, no. You look at my social media and think I'm bad. I don't think I can ever go to America again. I don't think I can go to America because if they want my social media, it's like, ugh. I'm going to end up in the room where they pull the rubber gloves on. It's like, fuck. It's just, oh no, honestly. There's this big list of countries that I either can't go to or have to be very careful if I go to because of things I've said on social media. And America just hit the list. It's like, holy fuck. Now in America, apparently they're saying to get in on a visa, you have to give them all your social media profiles and emails. And it's like, oh no, thank you. I just won't go. I just won't go to America anymore. Maybe I could lie and get away with it because I'm old. When they say social media, I go, I don't have any social media. I'm old. And look, here's the thing with the big asterisk. America has the right to introduce laws like this. I just think they're shit. Oh yeah, I did hear there was an Aussie tour guide student possibly been detained or arrested or incarcerated in North Korea. That's fucking bad. I think I'm old enough that I can get away with that social media thing saying, oh, I don't do social media. That's for kids. That's for kids. I don't do it. I think they believe me. Natalie, see, the Panopticon knows now. You've said your twin name's Ash. We don't know that, but the Panopticon knows that. Oh, Ahmed, that is beautiful. If the Americans ask for your social media account, set up a Grindr account so all they get is dick pics. Oh, Ahmed, that is beautiful. That is, yeah, just on with you. Why fucking go to North Korea? Jesus. Of course something's bad's going to happen to you if you go to North Korea. That's a disaster. Oh, look, it's 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. In theory, I'm going to work tomorrow. The Angry Zombie was it was quite a strong drink, but honestly, it's nothing compared to Angry's Bad Idea. I may or may not make myself an Angry's Bad. Wouldn't it be fun? I could do a TFU Friday tomorrow. I could make an Angry's Bad Idea and drink it and then do TFU Friday. Holy cow, that would be something. We'll see. We'll see if I manage to do a TFU Friday tomorrow or maybe do a video on the weekend. I'm almost definitely going to do a live stream with Eva on Sunday. And she's absolutely incredible. But based on the discussion we've had tonight, I might get Eva to talk about open and polyamorous relationship. Dr. Rama, look, thank you for being magnanimous and saying you're sorry for your cluelessness. You don't need to apologize. I feel like we just have open discussions on here. If we disagree, we can be open about it. And that's cool. And I'm not saying, I'm drawing, because we're talking about RUD, I'm drawing conclusions about RUD, and it's based on evidence, but I can't know for sure. So thank you one and all for joining in. It's always so much fun hanging out with you people. It's always a great time. So thank you all for your time. I'm going to say good night for now. Look after yourselves. I'll probably have a pre-recorded video on either Friday or Saturday for the weekend TFU. And there'll probably be a live stream on Sunday with Eva. We'll see how that goes. But until then, look after yourselves one and all. And I will say bye for now. Bye.